live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, welcome to the March 27th, 2012 edition of the Lynn Cullen Show. Or, that's not even the name of it, is it? Oh, Lynn Cullen Live. I see it right behind me. Yes, I am indeed live. And it being Tuesday, our habit is to let our sister Susan into the conversation, and she finds herself, unlike last week, back home in St. Louis. Hi, Suze.
Hi.
How you doing? I'm
fine. It's apparently warmer here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was looking at a weather map. You guys are avoiding what we are getting hammered with, and that is, dipping into the low 20s. At night. It killed a lot. There's a lot of freaked out little flowers and blooming trees out there today. And anybody who was stupid enough to plant a tomato or something, they'd be killed last night. I felt so sorry. I woke up about 4 o'clock this morning and I thought, oh, those poor little flowers out there. Oh, my God. And tonight will be the same. And then I guess we come. But I heard that, generally speaking, listen to this, the last killing frost around these parts is in mid-April.
Right, April 15th about.
Okay. Well, I think it was April 20-something.
Yeah.
So that just shows how totally screwy things are right now because, we had that summer-like weather for two weeks, even more, and it faked out everything. I mean, everything's up and blooming, and some of those poor blooming trees are going to get killed. They seem to be no one wants to hear, but I'll stop.
It might be okay.
I don't know.
Don't know.
There's going to be 2 days in a row of it. I don't know. At least the sun is out, so if the sun is maybe able to warm them up right away. So I do have to, Sue, start just by pointing out a local story of interest that is of no interest to you. But I think did I mention that there were these three sisters? One was a justice of the Supreme Court. One was a state senator.
Yes, you did.
And the third.
And they were all on their way to jail?
Maybe, yeah. Well, the first one, last evening, I was actually on my way downtown. It was about 6:30 last night, and I happened to go past the courthouse, and I saw photographers running across the street, and I thought, oh, my God, there must be a verdict, because the jury's been out for a long, long, long time, like 5-6 days, working 10 hours a day. And I was starting to get nervous. I mean, anytime a jury's out that long, you think, uh-oh, they're not gonna do it. But the state senator sister Jane went down, was found guilty yesterday, late afternoon, of 14 of 24 criminal charges.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the first one down. The case against the other sister, Janine, the only one who doesn't hold office, but who serves, I think, as the chief of staff for the sister who's the justice, is even a stronger case than that against Jane. So Janine is going to go down. And it's only a matter of time, I would think, maybe before the day's out, that the Justice, Orie, will step down and wait to get indicted herself. So can you imagine 3 sisters in jail together who used to be powerful, powerful figures? 3 sisters.
What do you think it is? Do you think that they just suddenly totally lose all concept of reality and think they're entitled to this stuff? I mean, do these people all just start out as crooks, or does the whole process develop them into them?
No, I don't think they do. And if I shared Jane Orie's politics, she's a Republican. If I shared her politics, she's bright. She was hardworking. She did get things done. I mean, I would say she was an excellent legislator. These are smart, hard-working, tough women, but it must be the classic thing of power corrupting. Because we've seen a lot of good people who've gone into public service and risen to high levels here in this state, both Democrat and Republicans. And they decide that certain rules really just don't apply to them. And invariably, they have to do with that line between, using public money for political purposes. That's what's tripping everybody up. They have their staff, their taxpayer staff
they use their staff, and
and their offices and their I mean, it's like you can't do that, but they do it. They do it, and I don't know. There must, once they get into the that powerful realm that they inhabit, they probably, it's sort of like the sense of the Washington Beltway mentality. You lose track maybe of being part of something larger. I don't know. It is confusing because I don't think, that the Orie sisters were raised to be crooks. No, I don't.
No.
But in this case,
how do they all fall? I mean,
She actually was convicted on a forgery count. When she got caught, she started doctoring documents and in a very ham-handed way, apparently. So it proves another point.
That she's not a natural crook.
Well, no, she's not a natural crook, and that the cover-up got her...
the cover-up is half the time the only thing they end up charging them with.
Right, but in her case, the cover-up just sort of added to some of the counts. I don't know. I mean, it's just amazing. I was looking for how old she is. I think she's still in her 40s, but I don't know. She's going down. It's unbelievable. And the jury, oh my God, the jury, Susan, it said in the paper it was made up of 50.
Jane is 50.
Jane is 50? Oh, okay, she's 50. The jury was made up of 7 women and 5 men. And they were sequestered. I know that on Sunday it was reported they worked for over 10 hours, refused to go out for food. They had food sent in so they could continue working. I mean, these were citizens who really were called upon
to... Were paying attention to their job.
They really were doing their job. And when the foreman, the reporters said that when the foreman went through all the counts, there were 24 counts. When he went through all, when he had finished, it says in the paper that 7 of the jurors were crying. 7 were crying.
If you take your responsibility seriously, it's very hard because the consequence of your actions are you are in prison. You are causing someone to go to prison.
You are absolutely changing someone's life in a extreme way, and clearly they took the job very
The responsibility
seriously.
is daunting.
Right. I feel for them all, and I mean their names have not been, they've all been anonymous. I really feel, I hope they know how grateful I am for their, for the work that they did. I have been called. I got a jury summons the other day, and as a matter of fact, I think it's next. Is it next week? No, it's April 6th or 7th or something. But I get called every 2-3 years. I have to take a day off work. I go down. I sit there. They never pick me. And I want to be on a jury. I do.
And I'm not eligible because I was a member of the Missouri Bar, so.
Oh, really? A lawyer
can't
sit?
Yeah, they don't want anybody that actually understands the law in Missouri.
Well, that's odd because here there's been cases where judges have been called. And I think one even got on a case. See, I'm assuming they never let me on because I'm recognizable and they think I'm opinionated and I'll,
persuasive.
And persuasive. So but I'm going to, this time if I get to the point where they actually talk to me, I'm going to beg them. I'm going to say, please, I promise to be quiet, but I really want to do this. I want to do it.
Yeah, I'd like to do it too.
And you see, and since I have been down there, you often see that the people, in the times I've gone, lots of times it looks to me like the people they choose are the most clueless.
Well, that's exactly.
That's what they want. They want someone they can manipulate.
Slate they can find so that they can create the story that they want unimpeded by prior thought.
Well, I got to tell you, I love the fact that if that was going on in this case, the jury proved them wrong. Proved them wrong. I mean, clearly very serious. And
thoughtful people.
Thoughtful people went through 24 counts and found 14. Although you could tell the juror, I guess, did talk to a reporter. One of them said, "It's just," he said, "these are so complicated and complex, and to have to." The fact is, they end up making a judgment, literally, and I'm sure
it's very difficult. People see this TV version of the way these things happen. But in reality, you're sent into a room with a list of the judge's instructions and a list of the counts, and then you have to try and figure out what all this legal mumbo-jumbo means. You think you're just in there trying to separate fact from fiction. You're actually trying to figure out which of the facts pertains to this legal minutia upon which the case hangs.
Mm-hmm.
And the perfect example of that is what's happening on the Supreme Court. I mean, everybody thinks they're out there arguing about the health care law. They are not. They're arguing about taxation and interstate commerce.
Right.
Two totally, just...
Well, they're arguing about constitutionality, but it's not the way it's not the way it's argued in the public square. That's not how they're arguing it at all. Right. I am stunned, by the way, to see that these polls show that most Americans are opposed. They say they're opposed to Obamacare. And here's my sense. If you ask most Americans what it is,
they don't know.
They don't have a clue.
Death panels.
The few people who know are people who have already been affected by it, and invariably they are for it, because in the cases where you've been affected by it, I'm sitting in a room with one right now, Miss Jess right here, my very own producer, who would be uninsured before it, but because she was still under the age of 26, she was able to be insured on her mother's plan. Although she's getting a little old, and so that ain't going to be... She'll be uninsured soon, right? Next month. That's what you get for turning 20... What? So you're turning 27?
26.
Oh, at 26 it's cut off? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, or I was listening to somebody say the other day, some congresswoman who said somebody told her that they had gone to pick up a prescription and it was like nowhere near what she had paid for it in the past. And she said, I couldn't figure out why that was. And the congresswoman said, it's the Affordable Care Act. Whatever. People don't know.
No.
Okay, well,
and for the life of me, I can't figure out why those of us that are insured don't understand that we are paying for those people who refuse to insure themselves or who cannot afford it because the way our system works, there is no affordable health insurance available to them, or because of pre-existing conditions, that those people still get care.
But it's paid for by the inflated rates that are charged to you and me.
Right. And not only that, but that cost is still picked up, in other ways that end up coming directly out of our pocket. I think the last estimate that I read was minimally $1,000 of every person's insurance premium is to cover those uninsured people.
Okay, so if you're a conservative, here's what I don't get. The conservative point of view, usually I thought, was people shouldn't get something for nothing.
That's
I
right.
shouldn't have to pay for that idiot over there who didn't do the reasonable thing like I did, right?
Right.
So why aren't they for this?
Because the fact is that they don't think. They don't follow this through. Those people at that debate months ago who cheered letting the guy die because he was uninsured, that guy wouldn't die. He would go to an emergency room and he would be treated.
And they would pay for it.
And the cost would be distributed among those of us
who pay.
That do pay.
That's the kind of thing that should drive a Tea Party person or a conservative nuts. So they don't even get it.
They don't get it. And I don't understand why they don't get it. I mean, I honestly, I just read this within the last 2 days, and I think I read it in a Murdoch rag. So it's not like the info isn't out there.
No, but Susan, I think most people too don't seek out information. That's my guess, and I'm surprised if it was in a Murdoch rag, because if you watch Fox News, you're never going to see it presented in the way that we just suggested. Which is why, by the way, this individual mandate was initially a Republican idea back in the 90s.
It's the only way that it works insurance-wise. You have to get the healthy people into the pool early enough at low enough rates that they will be in there, but that they can still support the more expensive. And then because insurance doesn't work, you can't say I'm uninsured until oops, I'm sick, now I'm insured. That was the whole theory behind pre-existing conditions. If you take that stuff out, then you have to. The only way you can remove the pre-existing condition limitation is by ensuring that all people, healthy and otherwise, carry insurance.
Which is what Mitt Romney understood when he was governor.
I mean, just think about it. You have to. Otherwise,
it doesn't.
If you have the pre-existing condition waived, then you could not buy insurance until you got into that catastrophic car accident and say, oh, by the way, I'd like to purchase my insurance now.
What a screwed up mess.
I mean, so really, people, everybody just has to be logical about this. Just think about it. It's not some draconian tax that we're covering. It's the only way the system. It's the way the system currently works.
Yeah. Here's a little screed from someone who calls herself an American girl, writing from California. How odd that it is not unconstitutional and a threat to capitalism that we, the taxpayer, can be mandated to pay for lifetime, gold-plated, no questions asked, nothing's too great a cost to bear for health, dental, and vision care for every current and ex-president and vice president and their spouses, every current retired or booted out of office Congress member and their spouses, and every current and retired Supreme Court justice and their spouses. We were never asked whether we wanted to pay for this. It was simply mandated and put into a law, along with the luxurious salaries, perks, and no questions asked, no ethical violation too heinous to disqualify for pensions after serving just one term. We can be mandated to pay for all of this absolute socialized care for all of them, but when it comes to universal health care or even its distant cousin, Obamacare, for us, who is actually paying the bills, it is unconstitutional and a threat to capitalism. Now, for you, dear taxpayer, get those cakes and cookies baked for your bake sales and put out those begging jars to pay for you and your children's health care. And get ready to lose your home if you or your child actually need a heart transplant. Multi-millionaire Dick Cheney, with his American taxpayer bought and paid for health care and heart transplant, couldn't be more proud of you if you were his very own serf. Pretty good?
Very good. Don't disagree with the word of it.
No. But Colette writes, I'm not clueless. I've been called for jury duty 3 times and chosen twice. Sorry, Colette. Okay, good. I'm glad people get through. I'm an engineer, and I can assure you that I'm not clueless, nor do I come across that way. You're not the first person I've heard disparage the chosen. Okay, I'm just envious.
Right.
No,
we're trying to figure out why otherwise qualified people don't. And
no, I do have to say that
I'm bringing my limited knowledge from my trial techniques course in 1904. About the only thing I remember from that class was the sage advice of the professor that said, never pick a juror that has the anal orifice, not the anal, the oral orifice of a chicken.
Excuse me?
No. Who has a mouth like the anal orifice of a chicken. That's what it was.
Has a mouth like the anal orifice of a chicken.
Yes.
I'm having trouble with this, Susan.
Well, I think that was picking someone that looked vaguely prunish, and pursed-lipped and...
Clenched and puckered?
Right.
Well, okay.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's what that whole course. That's the only thing.
The only thing you
remember, and obviously not too well.
Oh God.
So perhaps that's what it is. Perhaps you have a mouth like the anal orifice of a chicken, but I haven't noticed that.
No, I don't at all.
No.
I just have a mouth that's known to be, big and loud and all that kind of stuff. Whatever. I won't get picked. Not to worry. And it
was MV. We should apologize.
Yeah, sorry, Colette. And I'm glad they pick you because I know you're not clueless. Okay, I have something else I want to read at you. This was in Marie Claire magazine. Which
I know you pour over all the time.
No, but if you're sometimes, where would you see Marie Claire? In a doctor's office, at a hair salon, a beauty parlor.
A salon. They don't call them beauty parlors.
Beauty parlor. Man, does that date you? Beauty parlor.
Yeah.
Okay, this is by Leah Goldman. Being a woman in this country has become an increasingly expensive proposition. It's not just dry cleaning and haircuts where women get socked. We pay more for home mortgages, health insurance, and cars and car repairs, even when we mind our credit, eat right and exercise, and do our homework. Not to mention that we pay more for everyday items like deodorant and disposable razors. California, which in 1996 became the first state to ban gender pricing, found that women paid about $1,351 annually in extra costs and fees. Apply that figure to the rest of the women in the country, and the total burden is staggering. Roughly $151 billion in markups for women, more than what the federal government spent on education last year, and that $151 billion is greater than the budgets of 43 states. Now, I ask you, how can that be legal?
Well, I mean, the insurers will argue that because women get pregnant and there are all the host of, disorders and costs associated with our ability or inability to reproduce, that we just are statistically more expensive.
But why would we pay more for deodorant?
Oh, there's no good reason.
Or
Why
disposable razor blades, or cleaning.
For my shirt, my shirt costs more than my husband's shirt at the cleaners, and I argue with them once a year about this.
And I know I've argued too, and you get the same thing that somehow. I've heard two different arguments. One, that the machines that are used to press are made for a certain size, and it's bull. It's absolute bull.
That's what I said. I said because when he did that, I came in with my then little boy's shirt, and I said, "How much to do this shirt?" And they told me, and of course it was a men's price.
Right.
Then I gave him my man's cut blouse, and I said, "And this?" And they told me, and I said, "And why?" Because the last time I was in, it was because mine wasn't the right size to fit. It's in between, and my size is in between my husband's size and my son's size. Why won't it fit? Then it was the button placket is on the wrong side. I said, no, that's just how you tell.
That's right. So, California has managed to take this on and say can't do it anymore. I'm not aware of any other state that has done that. And you wonder, women get socked all the time. If a woman goes to work, the cost of her wardrobe that she is expected to have, plus her makeup and her hair, for women to make themselves presentable, costs a lot more. It's more expensive to be a woman. That's all there is to it. More expensive. How many pairs of shoes do men have? 2, maybe. 2? Women? How many pairs of shoes are you supposed to have? You know what I mean? Now, granted, we have more than we need, but we need more than men if we're to be taken seriously professionally.
Part of the problem is that we've fallen into the trap, hook, line, and sinker, and we're willing to pay more.
That's one of those things that we don't even notice.
We know that the $3 cream, we know that olive oil out of the bottle is a perfectly good moisturizer, but still women want to pay $40 a jar for God knows what.
Well, I don't. I never...
No, but women do. So I think those kind of costs are factored in, although I can come up with a whole bunch of things where I know it's true.
Well...
But I think our propensity to buy the ads is part of the problem.
Okay. Margaret asked the big question. But how can you put a price on tampons? Chuck says, if the Supreme Court needs a precedent for the health insurance mandate, they need only look to Pennsylvania's law that all drivers need to have car insurance. Well, that one's been taken up. Now, wait a minute. I forget what
the fundamental difference is you don't need to buy car insurance if you don't own a car.
That's right. That's right.
So there's still an element of volition. I mean, it is an example. It is not an exact example.
No, it's not, and it wouldn't pass muster. No. Okay, and while still on the women front, Susan, I refer you to Madison, Wisconsin, and to 2 legislators there who have put a bill into the hopper which would mandate the state's schools to prepare educational materials that put the blame on child abuse and neglect on non-marital parenthood. In other words, single mothers.
What? To what end?
To shame single mothers.
We need a law saying that you are blameworthy for being unmarried and a mother?
Yes. Of course, these 2 legislators are both men. One of them, a guy named Don Pridemore, actually has gone so far as to say that battered women
deserve it.
No, should stay with their batterers and should just love their husbands more. Here's his quote: "If they can re-find those reasons and get back to why they got married in the first place, that might help."
Well, let's do it this way. Let's let his wife take a baseball bat to his head twice a week and see how fast he forgives her.
Okay, well, that brings me to the great response. It was much like this one. Carolyn in Arlington, Virginia wrote to him and said, Mr. Pridemore, I would like to make a deal with you. I propose we live together. I'll even relocate to Wisconsin. We live together for a year in an abusive relationship. I'll beat the shit out of you on a regular basis, verbally assault you, make you live in extreme fear, break down any shred of self-worth you might have, all that good stuff. And then after 12 months, we can both reevaluate our positions on the issues. Granted, you don't know me well enough to love me, thus giving you happy thoughts to call on when I'm beating you violently, but let's see what we can work out. What do you say?
I love girls.
You know, good God. But there's no Republican war on women. No.
It really is. It's just out there.
It's just out there. How can you? It just keeps coming. More of it, and more of it, and more of it.
No, but they used to have the good sense to try and disguise it under layers of pretty little veiling. Now it's just out there.
Right.
We get to beat you. We get to rape you. You may not use any contraception. You may not do anything about it. If you try and do something about it, we may rape you again.
And if we rape you and you become pregnant, you must have the baby.
And then we should forgive you. Oh, yes, I forgive you because I love you.
Unbelievable. Okay. How about we take a little break here and I do some, commercials or two, public service announcements, whatever it is we have in the hopper, and then we'll be right back. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Go to BergBargains.com for great deals to Vegas. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. BergBargains.com.
It takes 12 years to create a graduate. It takes about the same time to create a dropout. And at the end of the day, the difference between a child becoming one or the other could be you. Studies prove that reading to a child regularly dramatically improves reading skills. And kids who read well by 3rd grade are 4 times as likely to graduate. So United Way is asking you to make a pledge. Tutor a child who needs help. Mentor a kid who needs someone on their side. Volunteer to read to children. Because when a child advances, we all advance. Communities improve. The path to success starts long before graduation day. And the difference between a graduate and a dropout could be you. Be a reader, tutor, or mentor. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org now. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual music guide is available now. Pick up one today for an inside look at the music scene in Pittsburgh. Plus Tosca, The Monster in the Hall, and Go Radio. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Hello there and welcome back. Lynn Cullen, her sister Susan in St. Louis. Let's lighten things up with some obituaries.
Oh, yay, I love obituaries.
Priscilla Buckley, 90 years old. A sibling to
William F.
William F. That was
Don't you miss him?
Yeah, I do. And, that's a big...
Boy, did we not know when we had it good.
Yeah, that was what a conservative Republican used to be. Smart.
Elitist.
Yes, very elitist. Effete. I was remembering when
Those were the days.
I was remembering when he wanted to smoke pot. Do you remember? And he got on his sailboat, I believe, or his yacht. And took it. What is it? Is it 3 miles out to sea, where he was no longer in U.S.
He was in international waters and not subject to the United States laws.
And he toked up, it occurred to me, what a riot to every time you smoke pot. If you're that scrupulous, if every time you smoke pot, you had to get in your boat.
You were forced to get into your three-masted schooner and put out to sea.
Yes, put out to sea. But then it occurs to me that you're you're sailing back under the influence. Right?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Well, Priscilla Buckley, there were 10 Buckley children. That was a family of 10 kids, and all of them, almost as far as I know, were extremely successful people. And Priscilla worked at the magazine. She was the managing editor. Who knew? She never married, and listen to, I guess when you're writing an obit for a Buckley, you say things like this, but Susan, I have to admit, while I've seen all these words, I'm not really sure what they mean, which is the way I always listened to William Buckley. I would listen to him and I would know what every other word meant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, part of it was that it was just hard to understand what he was saying.
Yeah, I know. With his tongue, the thing
with his tongue, his nose in the air, and
his tongue darting in and out.
He just looked like a New Yorker cartoon.
Ugh. Okay, but here's what it says, and I think whoever wrote this, Margaret Fox, probably don't think you would see this writing if it weren't in a Buckley obit. And it says that Priscilla oversaw the day-to-day operations of the magazine, riding herd, by all accounts, without raising her voice as much as a decibel, riding herd on a staff of occasionally bibulous, sometimes fractious, and constitutionally dilatory writers. Okay, here are the two words I don't know, even though I've seen them before. Bibulous.
That always, I don't know if I'm right, but it always sort of evokes green goo, as in spleenish, as
splenetic. Bibulous. What does it mean?
Bibul, excessively fond of drinking alcohol.
No, it means drunk.
Ah, cool.
It means drinking a lot.
Well, maybe those people frequently turn green, too.
Well, it comes from imbibing, then.
Bib. Exactly. Okay, I'm wrong on that one.
Okay, that's okay, bibulous. Okay, occasionally bibulous, sometimes fractious, meaning that means argumentative, right?
Yeah, argumentative fighting,
okay.
Right.
And constitutionally dilatory. Does that come from dilettante? Look up dilatory, D-I-L-A.
It's the root is dilettante.
Yeah, so it would probably be, what does that say? But I don't think that...
Slow to act.
Oh, no. Slow to act?
Yeah. Sluggish.
Sluggish.
Yes.
Well, boy, two
down. We
wrong.
got D-I-L-A-T-O-R-Y.
Yes.
Sluggish.
Yes.
Okay. On a staff of occasionally drunken, sometimes fractious, and constitutionally sluggish writers.
Well, actually,
maybe that makes sense.
I got the picture.
Okay, but so I willing to bet though that those are not words that would have been used in anybody else's obit, but a Buckley. Okay, so above that is another person from the world of letters, but a very different milieu, a guy named Bert Shugar, dead at the age of 75. And if you were a boxing fan, you would know this name because he was a great boxing writer and a great character. Edited and authored tons of books on boxing. He himself was a classic. As you said, Buckley was just a New Yorker cartoon. He was a walking caricature of himself. Bert Shugar was that too. And there's a great picture of him here in the obit. He always wore, a fedora, and he always had this big fat cigar coming out of his mouth too. And he was just a cute, funny character. So, and he would ask, he was a good writer, and he would ask perplexing questions like, why does Hawaii have interstate highways? Do they? Do they?
It's That's, well...
Well, they might have a federal state highway, and that's considered an interstate highway. But, I mean, obviously...
They couldn't have an interstate highway, but if they have a continuous, uninterrupted 4-lane highway, then that can be a federally funded highway.
I know, but it's not interstate.
It's not interstate.
And he asked, and why did kamikaze pilots wear helmets?
Yeah, why did they?
That's good. What does that have to do with boxing? I don't know. He had a law degree from the University of Michigan, and he passed the Washington bar in 1961, and as he was fond of saying, that's the only bar I ever passed. Because he was what? Bibulous! He was bibulous. Anyway, he dared to rank the 100 greatest boxers of all time, and I'll just give you part of his list because I'm sure this would have started more fights than, He said the greatest boxer of all time was Sugar Ray Robinson. He had Joe Louis at number 4 after Henry Armstrong and Willie Pep. And he had Muhammad Ali at number 7 after a guy named Harry Greb and Benny Leonard, neither of which I know. And he had Mike Tyson at 100 for whatever reason. Okay. So Bert Shugar. Those are my obits of the day. Oh, I have one more, sorry. This is a little old, a little stale, like a stale bagel. Bagels get stale so quickly.
Got to cut them in half and stick them in the freezer.
Yeah. Well, this is the obit for Murray Lender, who is generally credited with turning bagels into the national Lender's Bagels. Well, Murray Lender is with us no more. He died at the age of 81. But he was the one who made bagels a mass market thing. But I would argue that his bagels were crap.
I mean, I was just going to say, if that's your idea of a bagel...
You don't know a bagel.
You don't know from bagels.
Because he was the one... he said when customers... He started getting complaints that people were cutting their fingers trying to cut a bagel, which many of... surgeons actually have a specific name for a bagel cut when people come into an emergency room with a bagel cut. And he then said, well, his response to them cutting was to pre-slice them, which is another reason they were no good, right? But he became rich as hell.
Yeah, the texture was just wrong.
And he's the one, Susan, who did what I think is the worst thing. It says here in his obit in the Wall Street Journal, Lender's Bagels introduced bagels in flavors that non-Jewish customers associated with breakfast, such as cinnamon raisin. And I remember when I first started seeing those bagels, it's like cinnamon raisin, I thought, what the hell? It was like, something's wrong. There shouldn't be cinnamon raisin bagels. That's not the... And now look at...
I know. I always try to explain that to people. It's like there ain't no such thing as a flavored bagel unless it's got some onion on top or poppy seed or sesame. Anything else is just ersatz.
That is correct. It is not right. Lender's Bagels,
you can put, I suppose.
Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, catching up on our emails, Allison writes, I predict that if the Supreme Court says that the Affordable Care Act is unconstitutional, is constitutional, that will energize the Republicans to gain control of the House and Senate to repeal it. Romney won't energize them, but this will. However, I don't know if the other side will energize as much if it is ruled unconstitutional. The effects this Supreme Court is having on this election will be a case study for the ages. Commercial that I would like to see, a young mother saying, my child has a pre-existing condition, and thanks to the Affordable Care Act, he has insurance. or middle-aged parents. My child is in college, and thanks to the Affordable Care Act, my child has insurance. Or a senior citizen saying, thanks to the Affordable Care Act, my medication is more affordable. Fade to Obama cares. Hey,
well,
Allison, that's very good.
There was an article this morning
Very
about
good.
how the prediction was that the Democrats will embrace Obamacare and use it as
that he already is,
byword of all the good that it's doing.
Right, and even if, at some point historically, it'll be a large feather in his cap. Lynn writes, I do believe there is a decade's worth of hatred of women that has been building up among certain males. They hate what women have achieved and deeply, deeply resent us. It is just burbling up and spewing out. Quite a time we are living in. Well, you know what? I think she's right. And I was pointing out that, to my mind, the greatest social revolution of maybe almost in human history happened just in the last 50 years. And that is women's liberation. Half the population exploded out of this, tight little, pen it had been put in, and insisted that we have all the rights, all the opportunities, everything that you guys have had from day one, from the Garden of friggin' Eden. Move over. Stop and think of how huge that is. And the fact is that 50 years later, it is still a young revolution, and the other side is now mounting a counterattack. They have not accepted it. And even if it is legislated, you can't legislate people's hearts and people's minds. And there are plenty of women who side with the men on it, who are more comfortable with the structure that used to be, with the comfortable definitions of what our jobs were. And I really think that the women's movement, between the women's movement and the civil rights movement, you cannot get bigger. And it actually gave rise to civil rights movement. I don't know who you say is first, civil rights, then women, then gays. There's no putting this genie back in the bottle. No group is ever going to be willingly or will allow themselves to be deemed somehow secondary. And for white men who, stop and think about it, white men, it was their world forever, since the Garden of Eden. And in our lifetime, we upended it. I don't think I'm overstating it. So
I would argue that it started a little bit earlier when
women asked for the vote.
Yeah, when women got the vote.
Fine. They got the vote. We got the vote. Of course it did. But nothing like what happened in the 60s and 70s. Nothing. And even into the 80s. And continuing today.
Well,
it continues today.
We had to pacify men to show that just because we got the vote didn't mean they weren't all that threatened. We had to hide before we got to take the next step. Think when I was in law school, there were under 10 women in my class.
Yeah, and you ain't that old.
No,
I know, and I was the
first woman in the corporate dining room of the brokerage firm that hired me.
And I was the first woman in the newsroom that hired me. And we were both affirmative action hires. We were hired because the men who ran the joint had a gun pointed at their head that was held by the federal government.
Well, that and the fact that Manny Organic liked my legs.
No.
No, you're right. But after they hired me, they did hire other women.
Well, yeah, of course. But it still is. This is still in its earliest period. But you're already seeing that. See, here's why men should have been afraid. Women, by their nature, girls, let's say, are more, they're more driven than boys, I think, generally. They're better students than boys, generally, which is now why you're seeing schools practicing this, behind and under cover of darkness, affirmative action for boys now.
Right.
That boys that do not have as good a grades or good a scores as a girl are being let in to colleges all over the place, because otherwise the colleges would be 75% female and 25% male.
Right.
And you're seeing that increasingly. If you go to most urban centers now and you look at the jobs that are held by people under the age of 30, women under the age of 30 are being paid more than the males under the age of 30. They are. So the women aren't making as much as the men. That's not true at sort of high-powered entry-level jobs, because the women are the stellar people coming out of the law schools and med schools and business schools, and they're being snatched up. Men should be nervous, but they should compete.
Just be
That's what they didn't have to,
just
compete. But they didn't have to. White men did not have to compete with black men. They didn't have to compete with black men. They didn't have to compete with black women or white women.
Or
Asians. They had a rigged game. So when you see these angry guys that comprise the Republican Party, the fact that they are unbelievably white and male, right, should not be a surprise. And that party would have a war on women, whether they have consciously done it or not, and I would argue they have not consciously done it, is not a surprise. And it will continue apace. Jeez.
It's really amazing.
Well, it's hard to see history when you're living it. But we're living it. And nothing, you can't have such a huge social upheaval as completely rewriting what a woman is able to do. And legally able to do.
Or rewriting what you are allowed to do to a woman.
Right, exactly.
Legally.
All of those things. The rules got changed on these white guys. They're pissed off. They're pissed off. And I understand that. If they had a proprietary sense that the world was made for them, and it was, because they structured it. And then a bunch of uppity blacks and screeching women upended it. And that was done in our lifetimes, which means it's like a blink in human history.
Yeah, but even so, there's a whole group of young women that simply can't understand.
No, of course they can't.
This way, and don't understand what the threat really feels like.
Yeah, but you know what? Thanks to these Republicans, they're starting to get a hint, because the pushback is shocking to young women. They can't believe it. They're now hearing that, what? I might not be able to get a contraceptive? Or what? You mean I don't have a right to an abortion? Or what? They'll start seeing it, and they'll have to wake up. Every generation's got to refight the battle, I guess. There's no pushing them back. They'll have to maybe fight the battle themselves, too. But we made huge inroads, truly. I'm proud of us.
Yeah. And it was scary.
Well, it was, I don't know. It was.
Well, I don't know. I acted very unscared, but it was an act.
Well, we all did. We were
I
all
knew
in
that
uncharted.
I was constantly on trial.
Well, sure. Right. We were in uncharted territory.
And nobody was rooting for us.
No, generally not. I remember telling our father, Susan, that I was going to get a job I was going to try to get a job in television. This would have been 1975, okay? Not a million years ago, but a bit. 1975. And you know what he said? He said, well, yes. He said, you could work in the traffic department. Now, the traffic department in television is where it's a clerical job, where ads come in and commercials, and you figure out where they're running and in what shows and all that kind of stuff. So even though I had a college education, and he knew I was a good writer and all that kind of stuff, and and I'd even had theater acting, he didn't comprehend what I was saying. That I wanted to be in television, and all he could see is, well, sure, we'll put you in the secretarial pool.
No, and when I was in New York looking for a job and I sent him my resume for comments, his comment was, I wouldn't hire you.
We shouldn't tell these stories because then he doesn't sound as wonderful as he was. He was such a wonderful
man. Well,
man.
there was no one more surprised and pleased than he when I did get hired.
Yeah,
and
but he
and I hung out in Toronto at a real estate convention together, and he was proud as punch.
Yeah, but he was a man of his era,
right.
and all of this was just unthinkable. But then his daughters did what they did and blew his mind. But I don't know. Okay, I'm going to move on real fast because we are almost out of time. I just want to say this talk about pushback. The pushback on Treyvon Martin right now is really making me crazy. The news is out that he had been suspended from school because they found a trace of pot in his book bag. So? Yeah. So what? This is classic demonizing the victim. He was 17 years old. Okay, how many 17-year-olds have tried pot? What percentage? Most.
Yeah.
I hate to tell people. Most. It's no more surprising that he had pot. The poor kid got caught. That's what happened. And apparently he had been suspended before for being late, tardy or something. So, the kid wasn't perfect? Well, then, kill him. Isn't that something? That they think that's even germane. What does that have to do with anything? What does it have to do with anything?
Oh, it speaks to character and the chances that he was in there to viciously rob and maim somebody instead of just being out to get himself a cold drink and some candy. It's why that woman wearing that skirt deserved to get raped.
It's beyond belief. Beyond belief.
It's deflection.
Yeah, smoking pot.
And suddenly there's all these witnesses that saw Treyvon beating Zimmerman.
Yeah. Well, and I saw somebody here who saying, have the media jumped to jumped to conclusions with this case like they did in the Duke the Duke case. What? I don't think so. There is no way that some guy driving around in a friggin' car, spotting a black kid in a hoodie and feeling threatened, should be allowed to get out of his car after the cops told him not to, right? And end up shooting him. There's no way that this law should be on the books, of course. It really is. It's a shoot.
Well,
you know what?
Here's the thing: self-defense is a defense, which by its nature means it is judged by the trier of fact, either the jury or a judge, depending on what the accused opts for. But it's never a situation where the police substitutes itself for the jury and just decides that question of fact.
But this law allows that.
If that law allows it, then it's just, to me, on its face, it's just...
If you feel threatened, you are free to shoot. You do not have to retreat. You can shoot to kill. That's what the Stand Your Ground law allows.
All right, well,
but this guy, it doesn't
shoot anybody that rang their doorbell.
Well, I saw a great political cartoon the other day. I don't know if it was Rob Rogers or somebody else, but it was a guy holding I don't think it was Rob. It was a guy holding a sign saying that he was against, it was a sign for gun control. And he was lying on the ground dead, and he'd been shot by, a gun lover who is saying, I felt threatened by him, because he wanted to maybe take my guns away. So, well, sure. How many Americans feel threatened by young black males? Huh?
No, it's ridiculous.
My son wears hoodies all the time. He won't wear jackets. It drives me crazy. He only wears hoodies.
With the hood up half the time.
The hood up. He even has it up in the house half the time. And he is not white. Yeah. Unbelievable. Okay, sorry.
I gotta go.
I gotta go too. Thank you, Susan.
I miss you already.
Aw, we miss you too. It was fun having you here. You gotta come back.
It was fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
See ya. Bye. And I'm leaving, guys, and it's warming up out there. This is seasonal temperatures. Boy, does that knock your head back. And I'll be here tomorrow with Christopher Potta, who is always fun. Okay? Hope you join me.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.